That's kind of
All right, folks, here we are again on behalf of North Grenville Toastmasters. Today I have one of the founding members of our North Grenville Toastmasters Club, Dan Bennett. And this is just part of a series of videos we're doing for our Facebook page to introduce people to our members and have them get to know us a little bit and find out about how we benefit from Toastmasters. So Dan, as I mentioned, you're a founding member. Can you tell folks a little bit about when you came to Toastmasters and why you chose to do so?
Well, thank you, Richard. I came to Toastmasters actually in 2009, so almost 20 years, 2009?
14 years ago. I think it's 1999.
Yeah, 1999 it was. And what happened was I was taking a course at Transport Canada on communication skills. And at the end of the training session, the instructor said, if you want more information, and he went through other places that provide public speaking, one of them being Robert's Rules, and the other one being Richard Speaks, I think it was. He says, but my favorite, and what I'm a member of, is Toastmasters. He says, you get out what you put into it, and you work at your own pace, and the costs are nominal. And he said, I got a friend of mine who's starting a club. So he says he took my number information down, and about 24 hours later, I had a call from a local guy named John Lothian, who's still in the Kemptville area. And he says, yes, we're starting a club here. And we're meeting at the Legion every second Thursday during the month. So I showed up, check in hand, ready to join. And I get there, and I figured at that time Toastmasters is still a drinking club, because why else would they meet at the Legion if they weren't a drinking club? So I was kind of put off when I walk in there, and there's all these people and men in suits around a table in the boardroom, and I'm just dressed in my work clothes. So it was a bit off-putting, and I still remember that quite clearly, but I also remember the first speech I heard, and it was a guy, member of the Manatic Club, that came in and told a story about bats. And when he was a university student, they had to go catch bats in a cave, and when they brought them back, they were worried they were going to freeze. So he put them in his pockets of his clothes to keep them warm when they stopped at the restaurant to eat.
Live bats.
Live bats.
Right.
And then as the bats warmed up, they started to wake up and squirm around. So he had to, oh, just a second, and he ran back to the truck that they had to put the bats back in their box so they wouldn't wake up too much. Anyway, it was quite an experience for me, and it took a while to realize that I had came actually dressed up and came in casual clothes. They were coming from work, so they were still wearing suits.
Right, right. There's no dress code at Toastmasters.
There is no dress code. So I fit right in, and I joined the club the same day. So when the club chartered in 2000, I was one of the charter members, meaning I was there when the club started.
Right. And over the years, can you give me a couple of examples of ways in which you've benefited from being a Toastmaster?
Well, the main reason I joined was because when I took that communication skills course, I realized I'm now an auditor for Transport Canada. It means I go out and I tell people things they don't want to hear. They don't want to hear what they're doing wrong. They don't want to listen to you 9 times out of 10 anyway. So to be able to learn to stand in front of a crowd and be able to speak with some authority and not go da 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 da, to get a concise and coherent information out to them was what I needed to do. So to become better in front of a group. The other ways I've improved is that that first time you're speaking in a group, yeah, your stomach's all upset, and it's still a good thing to have because it keeps you on your toes. But I had to do the eulogy for my father. And my mother says, of course, you're going to do it. You're Toastmasters. Yes, I was. I had done 6 speeches. So I did that eulogy with the tears running down my face, my voice choking up. It was kind of embarrassing. And my mother said afterwards, oh, Benny, don't be sad. He says, She said, everybody else was crying too. But I knew I could do better. And I actually took an advanced training manual speech. It was to speak in praise of somebody or a eulogy. And my first practice one, I wrote a eulogy about my wife because it's the speech I'll never give.
Right.
And that was the title, The Speech I'll Never Give, because her family lives to be 100.
Right.
And I delivered it at the club. The club thought it was fantastic. But then I had to go home and give it to my wife. And she gave me the highest marks and praise I will ever get. She said, that's acceptable. I've done 3 other eulogies since then. They've all been rough, but I have been able to do it and get through them.
Good, excellent. So there could be people listening to this who are sitting on the fence right now. They're thinking about Toastmasters, maybe feeling apprehensive, intimidated, or whatnot. What advice would you give to anyone who's thinking that, to just learn a little more about Toastmasters and possibly come to a meeting?
Personally, I saw a need for me personally to improve my speaking skills and stand up in front of an audience at work. Everybody ends up needing, at a point in their life, they're going to have to speak, whether it's emceeing an event, whether it's giving the toast at your daughter's wedding, the speech of the father of the bride kind of thing, the eulogy. If you've ever done it and fubbed it royally, this is your chance to know you've made a mistake and you can be better.
Right.
If you know it's coming up, join the club, and then you're going to have 3 or 4 months to practice speech, to practice getting in front of an audience with people who understand where you're coming from, why you're nervous, and have been in the same place you are and can give you suggestions on how to improve and get over it.
I noticed in my previous career in financial services a few times where I saw people who were quite capable and competent, and others who may have been maybe as competent, maybe not quite as much, but people were passed over for promotions and advancement because the people who were able to communicate better tended to get noticed more. So rightly or wrongly, because a lot of those other people were quite competent, people tend to judge that. So go ahead.
Well, it's one of those things, like maybe some people are better at blowing their own horn. Right. This might be part of it. But when the bosses are looking for somebody to move up in position, they're looking for somebody quick on their feet, nimble, who has an idea what they're doing, aren't going to make bad decisions, but mostly, especially if you're in sales, where I think you were at the time, they need somebody that's quick on their feet and a quick thinker. So if you can do that, you're doing good. In Toastmasters, we have table topics where you have to do completely off the cuff 2-minute speech based on any topic at all that you've never heard before. And it just makes you faster. It's the elevator speech. It's 1 to 2 minutes of just sounding like you're on the ball and sharp.
Well, you've made some great points, Dan. Before we sign off, any final things that maybe questions I haven't asked that you'd like anybody listening to hear before we sign off?
Well, I'll tell you, if I hadn't joined Toastmasters, I'd still be at the guy standing at the back of the crowd, too shy to speak out because I was scared about making a fool of myself because the words would cross. You might start to seize a bit and freeze up. But Toastmasters helps. It'll help you relax in front of a crowd, make you more in command of what you're doing, and an organized speech. We do organized speeches more normally and written speeches. So you have to think about what you're going to say and prepare a speech for that subject and event. And I think it helps.
Great, thanks. Great message, Dan, and really appreciate your taking the time today.
Thank you
and
very
everybody, we meet on the first and third Thursdays at O'Farrell's Financial at 7 p.m. We have a Zoom option. If you look on the Facebook page here, you'll find the information that you need. And it's usually at 7 o'clock in the boardroom, but you can come as early as 6:30, and we hope to see you soon. Bye for now.